5 are not going to satisfy a serial killer, right? There would be no actual number. It would be until you got caught.
We are not like other shows.
I don't want to be rude, but I'm going to be rude because you know how I am. Wasn't a very pleasant looking woman. I'm not trying to be a bitch, but just saying.
She was not a high class lady of the night.
I know, it looked like terrible. Some shit that you did in Kitty Corral school. Like, what?
It's fucking awful.
Of course, he knows where she's buried, and it wasn't long after that. Like, he's like, I'm digging this bitch up. I need her vulva.
And in 2003, Nancy filed for divorce and issued a restraining order.
You want to smoke or vape? Even vaping is not allowed in the facility. You have to go outside.
A whole new level of horrific.
There was much you could do to change it, to be honest.
Hello, welcome to the You Run podcast. If you listen to us every fortnight, you will know that Heather, who normally co-hosts the show with me, is now taking some time off to spend some time with her new little baby. They're both doing well. Baby Campbell is incredibly cute, and Heather is adjusting to no sleep and message me at random times of the day where I know it's early hours of the morning there. But this left a big void in the show, Heather taking a break that needed to be filled. And me and Heather talked about lots of different ways we could fill this. We talked about a different co-host each week, so a guest co-host. We talked about solo episodes. We even talked about ending the show for a while until Heather was ready to come back. And then Heather had an idea. So my wife is a huge fan of true crime. And more than capable of keeping me in line. So she's within striking distance of me now. So I'll probably be less cheeky to her than I am to Heather. Lisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
No, that's all right. Are you ready to co-host and be part of this wonderful true crime adventure?
Absolutely cannot wait.
You sound like you can wait. Before we dive into what we're discussing today, just a quick reminder that you can support the show in a couple of really simple ways. You can do that by giving us a review on Apple or Spotify or Google or anywhere else. It's really simple. Click 5 stars and say something really, really nice. Or if you've got a bit of cash to burn, head over to yourunpodcast.com. Take a look at our T-shirts on offer. We've got a nice, really nice Jeffrey Dahmer one. If you are that way inclined and you want to wear a Jeffrey Dahmer t-shirt, head over there. I understand if you can't do that, times are tough and we've all got bills going up, but if you can, head over and do that, and anything that we get money wise from that goes back into the show to make it better for all of you. For those of you who've not listened before, you pick the cases and you do that by voting on our Instagram stories. It's at You Run Podcast. It's always been really sporadic when I've put these out, and I know a lot of people who follow that account miss these for true crime. So I'm going to make it really simple. On the 3rd of each month, there will be a true crime poll for our next case. Anyway, today you have voted for a case that I had never heard of, and quite honestly, I would have slept better if it had stayed that way. A serial killer who preyed on the elderly and children alike, committing several murders, kidnaps, sexual assaults between 1984 and 1985. Today we look at a man with many nicknames: the Valley Intruder, the Walking Killer, but most famously, the Night Stalker. This is the life and crimes of Richard Ramirez. And then an audio montage will play.
I can read.
Oh, okay. I might leave that in. We might leave that in. Here's the audio montage.
Ramirez entered the courtroom wearing sunglasses and shackles. He's accused of 43 crimes, including 13 murders and multiple counts of rape, robbery, sodomy, and oral copulation.
And I suspect there'll be problems with memory on those people that appeared.
But nothing on manhood today.
Well, at that point, it's unfortunately it puts the pressure on the witnesses.
It was the moment the about-to-be-convicted killer did not want to face.
You give up your right to be present while the verdicts are read here in open court.
Yes.
The judge granted the request, and over the intercom to his holding cell, Richard Ramirez heard the verdicts.
Guilty of murder.
13 murders.
Guilty of rape.
11 sex crimes.
Guilty of burglary of the residence and dwelling house.
19 additional felonies.
Guilty.
Guilty on all counts.
He was not surprised at all. Like I said, he expected this decision to come down he felt for weeks back that he could not get a fair trial.
Jurors cannot yet discuss the case publicly because they still must decide the punishment. But it is clear it has not been easy for them, particularly not after one of the original jurors was murdered last month by her suicidal boyfriend. But with an alternate, the jury restarted and took 22 days of deliberation. The lead prosecutor is not ready to relax.
I do not lose sight of the fact that we have more to do, and we don't want any glitches between now and the end of this, or else we talk about having to do the whole thing over.
Chuck, Colleen, all of us in L.A. in the 1980s remember the fear, the sleepless nights. When and where would the Night Stalker strike again? Well, fear did not paralyze this neighborhood. The residents spotted him. They took him down for police. Ramirez vowed vengeance. Instead, his liver gave out. Just a short while ago, we spoke by phone with the Night Stalker's last victim, a man who was partially paralyzed by a shot to the head, now living in North Dakota. Bill Carnes told us when he got this news this morning, I just felt like a big burden was lifted off my shoulders. Live in East LA, where the Night Stalker's rampage ended, Patrick Healy, NBC4 News.
This case was hard to investigate, and the more I watched and the more I read, the more sickened I was. Heather often says that people are born evil, and this was the first case I truly started to believe that. I did find out later that he wasn't born evil, and we'll get into that in extended cut, but initially I thought Heather may have been right, and this guy was just evil from the off. If you are easily upset, please proceed with caution in this episode. It contains details of murder, violence, also discussions about child abduction, abuse, and necrophilia. This is a rough case.
It's nasty.
It's very nasty. We normally start each episode with a backstory of childhoods of the chosen killer. But in a break from the norm, we are saving all of that for extended cut. Richard Ramirez's childhood was such a hot mess that it requires its own episode to pick it apart. It simply cannot be done in a quick opening. So instead, we're going to go straight into the meaty bit that I know you all love and the bit that I really dislike. We're going to go into his murders.
Terrific.
You found this case rough as well, didn't you?
Oh, it's awful. Absolutely awful.
It's so bad. April 10th, 1984, Richard Ramirez lured 9-year-old Mei Lung into a basement of his apartment building. She was looking for a dollar bill that she had dropped, and Ramirez said he could help her. Once she was trapped inside, he beat, strangled, and raped Mei Lung before stabbing her to death with a switchblade. Following the murder, he hung her from a pipe in his house by her blouse. This was one of the victims that's overlooked on most documentaries and most movies, and that's because it wasn't linked to him with DNA until 2009. So I wanted to include it because I didn't want to miss that out, because his first kill is probably his most horrific.
Yeah, he's a nasty pasty.
Nasty pasty.
Yeah, absolutely.
June 1984, Richard Ramirez would enter the apartment of 79-year-old Jenny Vickow. He would stab her in the face, head and neck while she slept in her bed. He cut her so deep in her neck that she was almost decapitated. Now, we see a lot of serial killers take a break. Dahmer done it, Bundy done it, and again in this case, it happens again. I don't...
That you know of.
That we know of, yeah. There is potentially other victims that he has had, but he takes a break, and I don't understand why they do this. Do you have any idea why a serial killer kills a couple of people then has some time off?
Not a clue, and I definitely don't understand this man at all.
No, there's nothing understandable about this man. But he took a break, and it wouldn't be until the 17th of March in the following year when he would strike again, this time shooting 22-year-old Maria Hernandez as she pulled into her garage. By an absolute miracle, she survived as the bullet ricocheted off her car keys that she held off to protect her face. She played dead until he'd gone. He didn't go very far, sadly. He went into her apartment and killed her roommate, 34-year-old Dale Akazaki. It was less than an hour before he would strike again. Pulling 30-year-old Veronica Yu from her car, shooting her twice. She was pronounced dead on arrival at the hospital. It was at this point when California news agencies started to get hold of the story. 2 murders and an attempted murder in the same night was unheard of at the time. In California, they had a big push on violent crime, and it was at an all-time low. He was given various separate names. One media outlet called him the walk-in killer, and the other one called him the Valley Intruder.
I think the Valley Intruder, is he?
No, he's not. He's not really. He's worse than an intruder.
Yeah.
10 days later, he entered the home of Vincent and Maxine Zara, shooting 64-year-old Vincent in the head while he slept. This gunshot woke Maxine, who was 44. Ramirez beat her, bound her hands, while asking where they kept their money and jewellery. While Ramirez was searching the room, Maxine escaped her bonds and retrieved her husband's shotgun from under the bed, pointing it at him and pulling the trigger. Unfortunately, the gun was not loaded. It's going to be awful. I can't imagine. Can you imagine, like, I've got you, you bastard, and then you pull the trigger.
Pull the trigger and
Nothing happens. Ramirez shot her 3 times, killing her. He then took a knife and removed her eyes, which he placed in a jewellery box and took with him. These remained in his apartment until his arrest. He later confessed that he had tried to have sex with her body, but was too shaken, thinking he was about to die, and he couldn't get an erection.
Oh, poor man.
Poor man. Not poor man. Fuck this man. Unlike a lot of cases we've covered, the police in this weren't complete fuckwits. They weren't clueless. They had managed to collect a fingerprint from the first scene, but at the time, the technology isn't like it is now with a finger database. So they could only use this fingerprint when they had a suspect to try and match it. They also had shell casings from the gun, which was a .22 caliber handgun. At the scene of Vincent and Maxine, they also retrieved the footprint of an Avia trainer. This would become incredibly significant to the investigation until a mayor completely fucked it all up, but we'll get to that. 14th of May, Ramirez entered the home of Bill and Lillian Doy. Surprising Bill in the bedroom, he shot him in the face while Bill went to retrieve his own gun. He then bound Lillian with thumb cuffs and raped her. Bill sadly dies of his injuries in hospital. Lillian survived the attack. I don't know if that's better or worse.
No, I don't know. That'll stay with you forever and you'll be petrified.
You'd be an emotional wreck. 29th of May, Ramirez entered the home of 83-year-old Mabel Bell and her sister Florence Lang, who was 81. After finding a hammer in the kitchen drawer, he bludgeoned Florence and bound her in her bedroom, something he would repeat with her sister. He then used an electrical cord to shock both of the sisters. I'm appalled that someone could do this to the elderly. I know you really struggle with this because of your job.
Yeah, and why? Why? They're old, they're helpless. Why would you?
No, I don't get it. So for anyone who doesn't know, Lisa does caring for the elderly. So Lisa's took this case for you was hard because you put this thinking of the people you look after.
Yeah, and like I said, I just don't know what was going through his head to think that was okay.
No, saying that, there's a couple of the old people you look after I reckon would have taken Ramirez down.
A couple of fiery old ones.
Yeah. After this, he raped Florence and used her sister's lipstick to draw a pentagram on her thigh and the walls in both bedrooms. Both women were found alive 2 days later, but sadly, Mabel died of her injuries in hospital. I know this case is rough, people. Stick with me. Unfortunately, it doesn't get any better, and we're not even halfway through. But the arrest and the capture of Richard Ramirez is something to fucking behold. So please do not go, because you're going to actually enjoy the capture of this man. Well, you might. I hope you do. 30th of May, Ramirez snuck into another home. This time, 42-year-old Carol Kyle and her 11-year-old son. He bound them and threw her son in a closet. He then repeatedly raped her. After he was finished, he released her son and bound them together before leaving the home. He demanded Carol didn't look at him and threatened to cut her eyes out if she did. There would now be a month's lull until he struck again on the 5th of July, entering the home of 75-year-old Marie Cannon. He beat her unconscious and then took a butcher knife from her kitchen, stabbing her repeatedly. This continued long after her death. So after she died,
he still carried on.
And the fact that he's doing this and there's children there as well, he's got no...
He just doesn't care. No, he's got no remorse whatsoever, has he?
No, he hasn't. And that's reflected later in his trial as well. He's literally got no remorse.
No.
The 5th of July, in another home invasion, he attacked 16-year-old Whitney Bennett, hitting her with a tire iron as she slept. He then began to strangle her with an electrical cord. This is one of the murders that he actually abandoned. So the electrical cord started to spark in his hands and he fled. And he later said that he believed Jesus had intervened to save her life. She did survive, and she had almost 500 stitches to repair the wounds in her head and face from the tire iron.
Yeah.
Anyone who's had stitches knows how much of a wound that would be for that many stitches.
Yeah, 500 is a big old gash.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a cut on my arm and my hand that's been like 15 stitches, and that's like
nothing.
It's like an inch long. It's nothing at all.
I don't know necessarily how many there was, but that wasn't even that many.
No, it wasn't. On the 7th of July, Ramirez would carry out a double attack, first on Joyce Nelson, 60. He then entered her home and stamped her to death while she slept on the sofa. He stamped so hard he left an Avia footprint in her face. After leaving the house, he drove across town and attacked 63-year-old Sophie Dickman, where he held her at gunpoint and attempted to rape her, but he fled when she told him he had taken everything of value. She swore to God that she'd told him where everything was, and he made her swear to Satan. If it was me in this situation, I would swear to the fucking Easter Bunny. Anything to make this stop.
Yeah, crazy man, go away.
Yeah, and I think most people would. I think put in that situation, I would tell anyone.
I think I'll just do whatever he told me to do.
Yeah.
And hope that it'd
fuck off afterwards. 20th of July, Ramirez went shopping for a new weapon. Just saying, that's fucking awful. What a wanker. He entered the home of Layla and Maxon Neildin. Bursting into their bedroom, he hacked at them with his brand new machete before killing them with a shot to the head from his gun. He mutilated their bodies before stealing anything of value. Layla and Maxon were 66 and 68. Why the elderly?
I don't know. You just can't get your head around it, can you?
No, and there's no pattern to what he's doing either.
There's no reason at all. He just goes and... I don't even know how he picks them. He literally just goes and...
No, there seems to be no planning, and when he was interviewed later, it's kind of like a case of he just picked a house.
Yeah. It's kind of like the strangers they were in.
Yeah, it's very, very terrifying. Not satisfied with that, later that night he would strike again, this time at the home of the Kavanagh family, killing the dad, Cherong, before beating and raping his wife, Somkid. The couple's 8-year-old son was bound and present in these attacks. Again, he would make the victim, Somkid, swear to Satan that he had got everything of value. On the 6th of August, we finally get someone fight back. Ramirez entered the home of Chris and Virginia Peterson, sneaking into the bedroom. He shot Virginia in the face, then shot Chris in the neck. Chris fought back, avoiding 2 further shots, and Ramirez left. He escaped. Both Chris and Virginia both survived their injuries, which, if someone attacks you, fight back.
Yeah.
Fight back. Don't do what Lisa says and do exactly what he says. Fucking go for him and attack him.
No, I meant with, like, if he said swear to Satan, I'd swear to Satan. I didn't mean I'd just lay down, open my legs and let him beat the crap out of me.
Yeah. I'd swear to Satan while I was looking for something to smack him with.
Oh, you've got much time, haven't you?
8th of August, Ramirez entered another family home, this time of Sakina and Elias Abawath. Shooting and killing Elias while he slept, he then brutally raped and beat Sakina. During the attack, her 3-year-old son entered the room. Ramirez stopped, bound the child before continuing to rape his mum. After the attack, Sakina untied her son and sent him to the neighbours to help because she was too injured to go and do it herself. I can't imagine how terrified she must have been sending her son out to somewhere that she knew Ramirez had just gone outside, and she's now sent her son outside. That must be horrific.
Yeah, that poor little boy though.
Now, Ramirez was brutal and unforgiving, but at no point could anyone accuse him of being stupid. He followed news coverage of his crimes in detail, was obsessed with it, which a lot of serial killers are. And he went from LA to San Francisco when he realized the heat was on him. He went sometime between the 8th and the 18th of August. On the 18th of August in San Francisco, he entered the home of Peter and Barbara Pan. He shot 66-year-old Peter while he slept before beating and sexually assaulting Barbara. He shot her in the head when he had finished.
And that's the first one he's actually shot after he'd been raped. Normally he kept him alive, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He used lipstick to draw another pentagram on the wall, adding the word Jack the Knife. I'm so glad this fucker didn't get the nickname he decided for himself.
No.
He got the one that was given to him and not that one. The fact that a serial killer's killed someone and then written their own nickname on the wall. No serial killer has named themselves that I know of apart from Jack the Ripper.
Did he name himself? Or was that just what people called him?
That's what he was called. There was letters that went into the press from...
But is that not after the police had said...
Yeah.
He shot the Ripper, so he didn't name himself then, did he?
No, I guess not. I'll shut up, shall I? No. Towards the end of August, Ramirez went back to LA due to a massive fuck up by the mayor of San Francisco, but we're going to come to that in a bit. The mayor of San Francisco, stupid. 24th of August, Ramirez arrived at the home of the Romero family. It was late, but the Ramirez 13-year-old son was awake and saw Ramirez outside. He went and woke his parents, and the dad, James, rushed outside and Ramirez ran away. James got the make, model and partial plate of the vehicle, and this was the beginning and the end for Ramirez. Remember this, parents, when your teenage sons are up late at night and you want them to go to sleep?
Yeah, it might save your life.
Might save your life. Having failed in his first attack, he would later enter the home of Bill Carnes and his fiancée, Inzed Erickson. He shot Bill 3 times in the head before beating Inzed and raping her. He made her say she loved Satan and told her to let them know the Night Stalker had been here. By this time, most of the names used in the paper had all changed and they'd all adopted the Night Stalker. And he obviously liked the attention. He now wanted people to know
it was him.
It was him. Inez went for help and the emergency services got there in time to save Bill, who actually had the bullets removed from their head, and they both survived their injuries. So that, to me, is incredible that he got shot in the head 3 times and survived. Let's move into how things went horribly wrong for the police with the fuck-ups, and finally catching him, because that's the bit that I'm excited about, because I want this bastard caught. I said earlier the mayor of San Francisco made a fuck-up, and she made the biggest
fuck-ups.
Yeah. So the police on this case were, in my opinion, pretty excellent. They kept information withheld from the press to allow Ramirez to keep leaving clues for them. So one was the caliber of the weapon, which was a 22 mil, and the other was the clue about the Avia trainer, which has now appeared at most of the crime scenes. During the police investigation, they contacted the manufacturer of the Avia trainer, and it turned out it was a limited edition and an exceptionally large size. And there was only one pair that was shipped to that area, and they were closing in now on who the buyer could be. Now, this is where the attack in San Francisco happened. The mayor issued a live televised address to San Francisco, and revealed all of this concealed information, everything. Said that he was wearing this trainer. They're looking for a man with a 22, and literally gave everything away. Ramirez later joked that he threw the trainers in the Hudson River later that night.
And why wouldn't you?
Yeah, if they've given away everything. So how did they catch him?
Oh, they were clever.
No, they didn't. They didn't catch him at all. They had several leads and an accurate photo composite sketch that had been released to the press. They had also staked out a dentist where Ramirez had been getting work on his teeth were bad.
Yeah, but the dentist bit bloody annoyed me.
It really annoyed me as well. So they had this sting operation set up, and they'd been doing it for a while, and they knew he was due to go back for another appointment.
Because he had an infection, didn't he? So
Yeah.
they knew he would go back.
But they got the plug pulled on their operation. Ironically, the following day he returned, and the owner of the dentist practice rung the police going, "Where are you?" And by the time they got there, he'd gone. The 30th of August, Ramirez went by bus to visit his brother in Arizona. He was traveling, so he was unaware that the composite sketch, detailed one of him, had been released, and it had hit every major news outlet in California. When he got back off the bus, he was identified by a group of elderly passengers who were waiting for a bus, pointed out to police officers that he was the killer. They were there to stop the killer potentially leaving the state. So good job, guys. He'd left the state and he was now coming back. He fled and ran across a busy freeway to get away from the police. He tried to break into the car of a resident, and that resident ripped him out of the car and attacked him. He then ran down the road and tried taking the keys from Angela Della Torre. Her husband saw this and hit him over the head with a fence post. This is where it all went wrong for Ramirez, as a group of around 15 residents banded together to catch Ramirez, which they did quite quickly. They also beat the shit out of him.
And why not?
And rightly so, in my opinion. Vigilante justice, here we go. By the time the police arrived, which was almost an hour later, there were over 100 residents all surrounding Ramirez. And looking at the state of him, you can find these clips on YouTube. I think all 100 had a go at him. So this is how he got caught. Good old-fashioned vigilante justice.
Yes.
That's how it was done. In another break from our regular programming, we're going to talk trial.
Ooh.
Because we never talk trials because they're fucking boring. But Ramirez made his trial quite interesting. So first day court appearance, he walked in. He opened his palm, which had a pentagram and 666 underneath it, and shouted loudly, "Hail Satan." What a way to start the proceedings.
It's how to get people on your side, isn't it?
Yeah, everyone. Well, we'll get to that because this crazy bastard did have a lot of people on his side, which is unbelievable. Yes. There was also a juror that was found shot dead midway through the trial. Many speculated that Ramirez had something to do with this.
He didn't have any friends, so.
No, he didn't have any friends. A little bit like me.
Yeah.
You
got me.
I got you. I got Heather.
No, she's just an acquaintance.
She's an acquaintance. Heather's not my friend. It wasn't anything to do with Ramirez, and it turned out that this juror was actually killed by her boyfriend, who a couple of weeks later killed himself with the same gun. Now, it was during the trial that all the crazies come out.
All the crazy, yeah.
Women, and countless amounts of them, found this ugly, disgusting, unwashed man attractive. I know that women like a bad boy. That's why Lisa's with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm the bad boy of true crime.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But he is a murdering child abuser. What the actual fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
get it.
Understand the fascination.
He received hundreds of letters, and fans would flock to his trial, declaring their love for him.
Yeah, they send him pictures and all sorts of crazy women.
Yeah, naked pictures, and just
crazy.
Yeah, go do a quick YouTube search, and you'll see some footage of these people. It was like Beatlemania.
Some of them are quite nice.
Yeah, the women, quite attractive. It was like Beatlemania for a serial killer. And if you don't know what Beatlemania is, Google that at the same time. You're obviously younger than me. The trial was over in 8 weeks, and Ramirez was found guilty of 43 charges, including 13 counts of murder, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. He was sentenced to death, but didn't care, telling reporters as he left, "Death come with the territory. See you all at Disneyland." What a twat. Fun fact, this is the most expensive trial in California history, costing $4.2 million in today's money with inflation. The only trial that's been more expensive since is that of O.J. Simpson in 1994, which cost $26 million to trial O.J. Simpson. Because of the security and all the extra measures they needed to put in, and the fact it went on for ages, and the fact they had TV in the courtroom. There was lots of money they just threw away on this one.
Okay.
One thing you may not know about his crimes, as he was never charged for them, but we know for a fact he committed them, is child abductions. So between February and March of 85, there was a string of child abductions and attempted abductions, which we know for a fact were Ramirez. He never killed any of these victims, but he would abduct them, sexually assault them, then abandon them.
Drop them off wherever, didn't he?
Yeah. It was one of these abductions that gave police the detailed composite sketch that led to his capture.
Yeah.
6-year-old Anastasia Horace was able to give enough information following her attack to make the sketch possible. It was the decisions of lead detectives Frank Salerno and Gil Corello not to pursue these cases. Not because they didn't want him charged with them, but they wanted to not put the children through a court case.
They've been through enough.
Yeah. The amazing thing of this, the decision was made. They went to Anastasia's house, where she bravely said that she would be willing to stand in front of him and testify against him. Both detectives said that her bravery brought tears to their eyes, and they had a conversation in the kitchen where they both agreed there was no way they could do it.
No.
So they got him for murder and all the other fucking horrible things he'd done instead. Before we wrap up this episode, there's a couple more things I want to talk about. One, the ladies who loved him, including one that was crazy enough to marry him. And the other one is his mental health and eventual death. So we'll start with his mental health.
Where are you going to start with that?
Well, no, it doesn't take a degree to work out he had some serious mental health issues. You can't say crazy.
Why?
Well, he was, but you're not meant to say it.
Well, what are you meant to say?
His mental health issues.
He was fucked up.
He is fucked up. Yeah, let's go with that. But it wasn't until after his arrest that we knew the actual extent of what was wrong with him. So the psychiatrist who assessed Richard Ramirez was a guy called Michael Stone, who concluded that Ramirez was a made psychopath. So he wasn't born like this. He was made like this. He made into this. He had a schizoid personality disorder, temporal lobe epilepsy, aggressivity, and hypersexuality, most of which was caused by his childhood, which, again, I said earlier, we're going to cover that in extended cut. Now, as we discussed earlier, there was lots of an army of women who threw themselves at him, despite the fact that he was fucking disgusting human being and insane and not. Is he your type?
No.
Anything about him attractive at all?
Oh yeah, no.
Take away all his crimes. Is there anything about him that you physically?
His face wasn't too bad, but yeah, when he opened his mouth and you saw the teeth, that's no go for me straight away.
So bad dental hygiene's a no go.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. And he was fucking disgusting.
He stunk as well, so that'd be a good no go as well.
Yeah, he was, because he didn't.
They said really strong body odour.
He didn't wash,
No.
So most of this time he didn't wash at all. One of these insane women actually married him. So in 1985, Doreen Loy wrote Ramirez 75 letters. This continued until 1988, where Ramirez proposed. On October 1996, they were married. I don't know how I feel about people being able to get married when they're sat on death row. Do you not think it should?
Why should they get their... No. That's a privilege. Why should they get it? They shouldn't get anything.
No, I don't think they should either. I was just curious what you think. I think if it's a lesser crime, I mean, if they're in there for...
Oh, for a petty burglary that had no injuries...
Yeah, or dealing a bit of dope, something like that.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
that's not... I think violence...
Yeah,
no, they shouldn't be allowed.
So what you're saying is if you're a dope dealer, you can have conjugal visits and get married in prison. If you're a violent dope dealer, you're not allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, fair enough.
Violence was never necessary.
Now, Doreen openly said for many years that she was going to commit suicide when Ramirez was eventually executed.
Oh, shame.
She saw sense. So when Ramirez was linked to the rape and murder of Mei Lung, the little girl that was his first murder, and it was by DNA evidence, she severed all ties with him and disappeared. As far as I'm aware, she's never been tracked down.
So the fact that he beat and raped 79-year-old women didn't bother her, but that poor little girl did.
Yeah.
But what about all the other poor little kids?
Yeah, she didn't believe any of those because he was never charged with them.
Yeah, but surely he would have talked about it because he's I think he was like a boaster, wasn't he?
He was massive boaster. Yeah, he's a horrible man. Ramirez also avoided the death sentence. He died in June of 2013. I think he got what he deserved. He died of a combination of cancer and hepatitis C that he contracted from years of substance abuse prior to his incarceration. It was reported that he spent a lot of time in pain leading up to his death.
No.
Well, I guess that brings an episode to an end. This is where it all stopped for Richard Ramirez. I want to say a huge thank you for Lisa for jumping in and helping me with this horrific case, taking up the role of counsellor in Heather's absence. I struggled with this one.
It was a hard watch, to be fair.
A hard watch and a hard read, and it's not nice. I also want to say a huge thank you to all of you out there in the world listening to our episodes. We really appreciate the fact you listen and you enjoy what we produce. We'll be back on the 15th of the month with Extended Cut, and this is the case where we'll talk about Richard Ramirez's childhood, give you information on documovies, a documentary.
Quite good, yeah. I quite like that.
A documovie. We'll make a documovie. A documentary and movies to explore the case further. So explore. I don't know if I like recording video. So until then, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Stay safe, be good, and if you can't be good, be careful.
And lock your doors.
Yeah, lock your doors.
Yeah. And windows.
And windows.
5 are not going to satisfy a serial killer, right? There would be no actual number. It would be until you got caught.
We are not like other shows.
I don't want to be rude, but I'm going to be rude because you know how I am. Wasn't a very pleasant looking woman. I'm not trying to be a bitch, but just saying.
She was not a high class lady of the night.
I know, it looked like terrible. Some shit that you did in Kitty Corral school. Like, what?
It's fucking awful.
Of course, he knows where she's buried, and it wasn't long after that. Like, he's like, I'm digging this bitch up. I need her vulva.
And in 2003, Nancy filed for divorce and issued a restraining order.
You want to smoke or vape? Even vaping is not allowed in the facility. You have to go outside.
A whole new level of horrific.
There was much you could do to change it, to be honest.